Hey guys, and welcome to my video number 2 in my Photoshop for Photographers training video series. That is a tongue twister to say. And in this video, we are going to learn about navigation tools. So stay tuned. All right, guys, I am glad you're here. Now, navigation tools, I put as my second video right after learning the interface because it's so important that you learn how to get around an image, how to navigate an image. We're also going to talk about cropping images and all of that good stuff. So this video hopefully will be very helpful for you as you begin to build on the foundations that I'm teaching in this course. So first off, every image that I use is from the website unsplash.com. They don't sponsor me. There's nothing about that except they're great images. And so all the links to all of the images are below so that you can download them and work on them just as I'm working on them. So I'm not working on some mystical image that you can't get your hands on and work on. These are all images you can work on so you can follow right along. So maybe hit pause on the video, go and download all of those images so that you're ready to go as we work together on these images. And I plan to do that on all of the videos, have them be from that website so you can download and work right along with me. All right, so the first one I am going to open is this image right here. And what I want to talk about first is I want to talk about the crop tool. And the crop tool is basically a tool that allows you to crop in or crop out certain parts of your image. And the crop tool is found right here in the toolbar. Okay, by hitting the letter C, you bring up the crop tool. And if you'll notice, the crop tool has these little lines and corners to show you where you can drag, which probably everyone is used to. And as you drag, let's say I want this image to follow the rule of thirds. And currently the grid that I have up is the rule of thirds images. So the rule of thirds, I can't even speak today, the rule of thirds states that if you place your subject on one of the lines or where the lines intersect in one of those PowerPoints, it will make your image more visually interesting. And so I've now placed her directly over the intersection of two lines in the rule of thirds. So to accept it, I can just hit this check mark. And that is my new crop right there. A little bit more pleasing crop than that one. Okay, so that is how easy the crop tool can be. Now, I have it set. I'll go back to the crop tool. I hit the C key. So it is not constraining me to any type of proportions. I can move this anywhere I want and make this crop as weird or as broad as I want it to be. But if I need to crop for a certain size, I can either type in those numbers here or I can go to the defaults that Photoshop provides. So let's say I have a client that wants to print an 8x10 of this image. If I click on that, it'll show me what an 8x10 is going to look like. Now this is a vertical or portrait 8x10. If I click these two little arrows right here, it'll take it to a horizontal or landscape 8x10. And again, I can just slide this crop over. All I'm doing is clicking and dragging. Okay, get that into the rule of thirds. Double click or click on that check mark that was there, and I get that crop exactly how I want it to be. So I keep undoing what we're doing. So let me show you what I'm doing. I am basically doing the undo crop. This is the undo. Command or Control Z will always undo what you've done. So if you've made a mistake, you can simply go up here and go undo. I've already undone it. But you can also go redo. So there's a redo, there's an undo. Okay, so that's how I'm backing out of the crop. Now, sticking with the crop tool, if you wanted to change the guides or the grid of what you see, you can change it here. I have it set to rule of thirds. You could have it to be a full grid. Let me bring up the crop tool so you can see it. So you have a full grid. That can be kind of a lot. You could have them be diagonal lines. You could have it be triangles. Okay, the golden ratio, the golden spiral. So all of these things can help you crop it to be more compositionally interesting to the human eye. If you're interested in learning compositional techniques, I have a full article on my website, lots of articles on all of those different compositional techniques. So you can get on there and look. I'll even put some links below to those in the notes. Now let me get rid of, let me go back to the crop tool. I'm going to clear out these requirements. The ratio is cropping to a 4:5, which is basically, crop. There we go. Which is basically an 8:10. So it was moving an 8:10 to a ratio of a 4:5. Those are the same size. Okay, so you see this straighten option. Let's say there's a line in here. Let's say this back wall line, I want to crop to have that straight. Instead of trying to grab these and twist them, I can click on the straighten tool and I can just click and drag a line to match where that is. So if I click OK, you now see that it's done that it's cropped so that line is straight. Another way I could do that is I could just come in here and kind of eyeball it, come about right, maybe right there is a close one. I could do that as well, but the straighten right there helps it to make it easy to crop to match a line. The delete cropped pixels. So if I crop here, and I drag this in to my rule of thirds, okay, and I hit accept, this information, even though I can't see it, has not been removed. So if I bring up the crop tool again, it reappears. Now if I crop, let me undo my crop, if I crop with that selected, this becomes my crop. If I go back to the crop tool, this does not reappear. It's gone. I can never get it back. So that is what the delete cropped pixels is all about. Okay? And then content aware cropping. So if I have that checked, if I come in here and I just angle it just a bit. So do you see how the image doesn't fill this area, it doesn't fill this area, and it doesn't fill this area? What's going to happen is Photoshop is going to crop, and see how it's outlined it. It's still thinking. Photoshop goes in and tries to guess what that area looks like. So you can see down here, it's tried to extend the what is that, a pepper grinder? It's tried to extend the roll that's sitting there. I think that's a roll. It looks like a roll to me. It's tried to extend the counter. And then up here, it did pretty good up here. It extended the walls. So it did a pretty good job. What it is it's just a way so you can crop exactly how you want, and then Photoshop will try to fill in if there are gaps where you are cropping beyond the image borders. And you can tell sometimes it gets it right, like in this top corner, but in these bottom corners, it doesn't look awesome. Now, if I was doing this quick and dirty, that would be fine, and I would have no problem with that. So that's the crop tool. That's how you're going to crop images. If you wanted to crop this to a 5:7, you could just select that right there. Perfect. Hold double click. That's been cropped. So I've now made it a vertical or a portrait orientation as opposed to a horizontal or a landscape as it was. So you can do all of these things inside of Photoshop. You can also come in here and I can, even though it says 5:7 up there, I can drag it over to here to make it a horizontal 5:7. And I can straighten up that line just like that. Pretty simple, right? So the crop tool is one of the tools that you will use a lot inside of Photoshop. Okay, so let's close this image down and let's open up this image. Again, these images are ready for you to download in the show notes, in the notes of this video, so that you can work right along with me. I'm going to get off of the crop tool because you can see the crop lines are there. So I'm just going to click on the move tool up here. And what we're going to talk about in this with this image is rotation. How do I rotate an image? Now, is this image right side up? Is it upside down? Is it backwards? Is it forward? I figured this would be a good image to talk about that because it looks good no matter what direction, or maybe it looks odd no matter what direction you have it. But this is something to remember. If you are wanting to rotate the entire image, you come up to Image Rotation. So if I want to rotate it at 180 degrees, I click there, and you see it rotated 180 degrees. If I want to rotate it counterclockwise, so to bring those houses to the top right corner, I click there, and that rotates it clockwise. Can you see how that's happening? If I want to rotate it arbitrary, I can say I want to rotate it, let's see, 25 degrees clockwise. I hit OK, and you can see I have all of this now appearing. I'm going to undo right there what I've done. And so with image rotation, you can flip your canvas horizontally, you can flip it vertically, and you can rotate it all around. Where did I go? Image, there we go, image rotation. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you with that, is just how to rotate your image. Okay, so next one, let's say I'm going to bring up all of these images. So let's say these are all pictures I've shot. Now they're not, but let's say they're all pictures I've shot, and I want to create a collage of all of these images together. Now, what we're going to do, let's say I want to make it an 8x10 that I'm going to print. So let me go to File, New. Okay. Let's go to Photo, View All Presets. Here's a landscape 8x10 right there, landscape 8x10. That's giving me an 8x10 at 300 pixels per inch. And if you remember from the last video, 300 pixels per inch, PPI or DPI, is what we want in order to print this image. So if I hit Create, I now have a blank canvas, if you will, that I can create my collage on. Now let's say I want to zoom out. So you remember I'm at 100% right now. If I click right here on the magnifying glass, okay, the zoom tool, if I click, it's got the plus sign and I'm zooming closer. Now I'm at 300%, now I'm at 400. If I hold down the Option or the Alt key, I can zoom the other direction. So there's 50% right there. So that's about where I want to be, kind of so I can get my images all onto this this different image. Now, a quick shortcut to get to the zoom tool so you don't have to click over here is the Command or the Control key with the space bar. Right there, right there. To zoom back out, keep the Command and Control key pressed and hold down the Option or Alt key. So zoom in is Command or Control space bar. Zoom out is Alt or Option Command. Wait, let me do that right. To zoom in is Command spacebar or Control spacebar. To zoom out is Alt Control spacebar or Option Command spacebar. So if you're on a Mac, it's Option Command spacebar, and if you're on a PC, it is Alt Control spacebar. Okay, so that's zoom out. That's zoom in. All right, so piece of cake, right? Oops, let me go back out to 50%. Right, got to get my fingers right. Right there, 50%. So I'm going to bring that over here. I'm going to shrink this down just so it's not taking up my full screen. All right, so let's say I want to get all of these images on here. All I have to do is have the Move tool selected, okay? Click on the image and drag it. And that didn't work. There it goes. That one works. So I've got that one. Now you'll notice in my layers over here, you'll see my background. If I hit this eyeball, I hide that top image. I've got my background here. There's my first image. Okay, so I'm going to close that. So I can either go File, Close, or Command W. Okay, let's move my second image over. There it is, and you can see it's put it right on top. Again, close that. My third image. Perfect. See it right there. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to close it. My fourth image. There it is right there. Going to close it. And my fifth image. Good. So I've got them all right here. I can hide these ones, so I just see that one. I can bring them all up, so these eyeballs allow me to see the different layers. And we're going to do a video more in depth on layers because layers are one of the most powerful and important features of Photoshop. But just with what we're using them right now, think of layers as stacks of paper or pictures stacked on top of each other. The topmost layer is the one you're going to see because it's on top. And then as you go down, you can see the edge of a layer below. And then if I hide the top layer, I can see the one right below it, and so on and so forth. And so think of layers as just these pictures are all sitting on a desk, stacked on top of each other, and I want to rearrange them on that desk so that they all fit on my 8x10, but I also want to shrink them down. Okay? So you might think, well, maybe you should crop them before you move them over to my 8x10. But that's probably going to be the hardest way to do it because you have to know then exactly the pixel count of each image so that I crop it just right and it fits in the exact spot I want it based on the pixels. Now, I'm not a pixel memorizer and I doubt you are as well, so that's going to be a really hard way to do it. What we want to do is we want to be able to transform the size of each one of these layers or images that I've put onto this paper. So if I go to, here we are, Edit, Transform, and I am going to go to Free Transform, okay? And that's going to bring up, see how I now have these edges where I can now shrink this image down. Okay, so I am going to just kind of bring in a corner. And in Photoshop CC 2019, it actually constrains the proportions so that it doesn't lose its shape and get all stretched out or squished or whatever. So if you have a version that's older than CC19, you will need to hold down, I think it was the Option key or the Alt key to constrain, or it was the Shift key. I think it was the Shift key. I can't remember. You got to hold one of those keys down as you drag. Otherwise, it's going to start to do this stuff right here. But in CC19, it will constrain the proportion automatically. And if you hold the Shift key down, then it enables you to squish or do whatever you want. Okay? So I'm going to shrink this one down and just kind of put it right there. Let me quickly shrink these other ones down. If you noticed, I right-clicked and it brought up my different layers. So I selected my next one. I'm going to transform it, and you do that by hitting a Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC. Remember, free transform, Command T, Control T. Okay? Command T. I'm going to push from this handle right here, and I'm just going to bring that one right there. Same thing with this next one. Right click so I'm on the correct layer. If you just hit Command T, it's got to know which, it's going to be on the layer, whatever layer is selected. So I'm going to put this one right here. I can right click again, or I could actually just come over here and click on the layer. Either one of those ways will work for you. So let me just shrink this guy down. Let me drag him out. So even though, see, I'm clicking on this image right here, I'm moving the other layer, and that's because this layer is selected. If I wanted to move this layer, I would either right-click on it or select it to move it. Last image, right-click, transform. Let me do this one a little bit quicker. And so what we're going to do is try to make a nice little collage right here. Okay? So now I'm just right-clicking and moving them around. Okay? And you can see that I've got the Move tool selected. And let's say I want to zoom in closer. I'm going to make the image, the screen size bigger, and then I'm going to zoom in. Now, instead of clicking on the Zoom tool, I am holding down the Command and the space bar. And instead of just clicking, I can click and drag. And if I drag, I can control my zoom exactly. So you can see I'm just creating a little bit of a collage. I hit a Command T right there. Let's get that one. Now let's say I wanted to line up those bottom lines. Okay, and I want to match them all to this one right here. So if I select this layer, remember our guides, if I drag it down, it's going to snap. Do you see it kind of snapping? It's going to snap to the layer I've selected. So it is now snapped right there. I'm going to zoom in even closer to make sure I get it right. So you can see right there. Do you see that? How this image, I've made it too small. So I'm going to select it, Command T, and I'm just going to grow it just a bit to fit that spot right there. Now, in order to move across the image without zooming back out, I can either click on the hand tool right here, okay? Or I'm going to stay on the move tool, or I can hold the space bar. If I hold the space bar and click and drag, I can now move across my document without having to select the move tool. And I'm going to actually zoom out on this one so I can just see what I'm doing. There it is. I couldn't tell what I was doing. Let me zoom back in. Let me select this image, bring up the transform tool. I'm going to shrink it just like that. I'm going to slide it over, and I might end up with a big white spot over there. Let's look. I did. I ended up with a white spot. So let's get this just right. I'm going to bring this one down. And I want it to line up with that other line right there. So let me undo that. Let me cancel that. Let me select this one, and I'm going to bring a guide there. And that's going to help me crop this image so it matches perfectly right there. Okay. Oh, I might have it too high. There we go, right there. All right. And this image, transform it to fit right there. Okay, so I like that. I think that looks pretty good, except, and I'm going to hide the guides. So the guides are kind of in my face. I'm going to hide them, and I'm going to do that by hitting Command or Control H. And basically that is view, okay, extras. Yes, view the extras. No, view the extras. Okay. Ooh, and look, when I hide my guides, I see I have a little bit of a line there. So let me click on this one and just use the arrow keys. Nope, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to transform it. But the arrow keys can do the fine tuning on image movement. Transform. Let me just make this a little bit larger. Okay. Now, let's say I want to make all of these bigger to fill in this space. So I can go over here and I can select all of these layers together. You do that by clicking on one of them, holding the Shift key down, and clicking on the last one, and it will select each one in between. If I hold the transform key down, you now can see I can transform all of them together just like that. Okay. Let me zoom in just a little bit. So now I could print this. I could take this to wherever and have it printed. I could print it on my own inkjet printer. But I now have created a collage of all of my favorite images that I've shot at night. Again, these are not my images. They're from unsplash.com. But this is a way to create kind of a cool collage. I could put that on Instagram. I could put that on Facebook. I could make prints for family or friends or hang it on my wall. But that's just a way to create a collage. So this video was basically on helping you to learn and understand the crop tool, the navigation tools, rotating an image, zooming in and zooming out, the move tool, and then also the hand tool, so that when you're zoomed in, you can move quickly around an image. So download those images, give this exercise a try so that you actually can put into practice using those tools, because these are going to be the steps you need to know as you begin to really work to edit your images. Hope that helped. Thank you for being here. Remember to subscribe. It helps people to find my images on YouTube, but it also will give you a resource to hopefully learning Lightroom, Photoshop, and photography. Thanks again. Bye-bye.